Hello, everybody. I am Drew Duncan, and this is the 657 Sports Show. Plenty to get to today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Christian McCaffrey trade to the 49ers, as if that's new news to everybody at this point. Then we're going to be discussing a little bit more of college football preview and predictions, NFL preview and predictions for the weekend as well. The Creed 3 trailer has officially dropped. Got to tell you, it looks badass. And some other things to get to as well. Let's dive right into it. All right. Obviously, first and foremost, Christian McCaffrey has been dealt to the 49ers. Look, there's not a single one of us out here, I don't think, that doesn't realize that Christian McCaffrey is two things, right? One hell of a running back. There's nothing that he can't do. Good blocking, good catching, great moves in the open field, incredible vision. The man still has wheels, but he's also very injury prone. So it's really 50-50 as to what's going to happen with the 49ers offense. And we saw Frisco when they were at their best going into the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs that year, when they were a very run-heavy offense combined with a very good defense. So if McCaffrey can stay healthy, then who knows? And it is what's best not only for the Carolina Panthers at this point, but it is what's best for the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, they've been way too reliant on Debo, and as good as Debo and Kittle and those guys are, I still maintain that not only is Lance mid despite the injury, and we really didn't get a full sample size of what he's capable of, I think for the most part, we would all agree that Jimmy G is very mid as well. So if McCaffrey can stay healthy and they're able to utilize him the way that they want to, it could take a lot of pressure off of Jimmy G, Debo, Kittles, etc. Then, of course, obviously you're going to take pressure off of that defense. You're able to maintain drives, as I've talked about before. You're able to do long, lengthy drives. And then, of course, in addition to that, you can control the clock. Play action becomes a lot easier for you now. So it could really open up the 49ers offense if McCaffrey can stay healthy. That's going to be the main thing. You know, a lot of people are saying Carolina's imploding, et cetera, et cetera. Look, they've added how many draft picks now? And basically everything that they have lost, they are now beginning to gain back, right? We've all seen what happened with the Robbie Anderson situation. They dealt him explicitly the day after everything had happened. Of course, that all started with the rumors that they were going to trade Anderson. Anderson went off on the sideline and just said, basically, look, man, if you don't want me here, then just let me go. And that's what Carolina did. I agree with both parties. If Anderson wants to be traded, hey, man, just let him go. You know, there's no point. And if the rumors were true, which apparently they were, after all, it wasn't very hard for them to deal him, then so be it. A lot of people are saying DJ Moore should be next. I would tend to disagree. He is the one glimmering hope of that football team at this point. But then again, if you're going to be doing the right thing for McCaffrey, then why not do the right thing for DJ Moore in terms of letting him go somewhere where he can thrive and potentially win a championship? So I disagree with the idea of losing him because he is the best player that you have right now. Baker Mayfield injured, hadn't played very well to begin with as it is. Really, the only time we got a good sampling of Baker Mayfield and what he's capable of was very late in the opening week against the Cleveland Browns. And even then, it was a lot of screen plays to McCaffrey, short throws over the middle. Despite that, he was poised in terms of finally being able to get it done. I think that they played way too conservatively, if I'm being honest with you, to begin with. And they really just weren't sure how to use Baker or anybody else in that offense. How do you plug in Baker to get things going? And, you know, Matt Rule, he's been fired. Let's just be honest. It's rebuild now for the Carolina Panthers. So if you're going to rebuild, you're going to start from the ground up. You're going to rely on heavy draft picks, being able to make some trades, utilize some of those draft picks later on to maybe get other players. But in the meantime, it is what it is, and Carolina has clearly decided we are just going to start completely over. And at this point, is it really a bad thing to do that? This season is clearly lost, and there's really nothing that Carolina can do going forward. I know a lot of people are screaming, tank, 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 but that's just asinine in every sense of the word. And we've talked about tanking games before, and it makes the league look rigged, and I just don't agree with the idea of tanking on any level. I don't care if it's the NBA. Right? Because, even in the NBA, we heard it, right? Utah, they didn't know that they're supposed to be tanking, losing Donovan, Mitchell this year or in the offseason, et cetera, et cetera. What do? Well, you don't tank. You try to win games. So sick of hearing about draft position and all that stuff, man. The players deserve the opportunity to prove that they are at that level for a reason. So there's that. All right. On to it. Kyler Murray last night, Thursday Night Football. Got in Cliff Kingsbury's you-know-what. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it. The same way that I don't have a problem with Brady getting after his players, and you could say that Kyler Murray ignited a fire under everybody's ass. Weren't they down 14-6 at that point? Yeah, sure, you could look to the Andy Dalton picks that happened at the end. What was it, 2 picks inside of 2 minutes? Both of them going back for touchdowns. Didn't they say that was a record? Something that hadn't happened since 2000? Obviously something that you don't want to be known for. But then again, who knows Andy Dalton really for anything that's positive? So when it boils down to it, they were down 14-6. They go into halftime with a 28-14 lead after the thing happens between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. And then after that, they go up big. And then, of course, they end up going on to win the football game. And Andy Dalton made some throws, but the interceptions and turnovers as a whole for the football team, but specifically the interceptions, ultimately did that football team in. Regardless, I don't have an issue with Kyler Murray showing some fire and passion. It has been a bad season for the Arizona Cardinals, and, you're still trying to be in this thing. Still a long year. All right, we're only through 6-7 games for most football teams right now. And why not just say, dude, I'm still here. We're still playing. We're still at the bare minimum. I'm going to try and make the playoffs. In the NFC West, the way that it looks right now, it's not exactly impossible. Shoot your shot and go for it. So, no, I don't take issue with Kyler Murray doing what he did. I've said that the season hasn't gone well for Murray leading into the game, but also I've told people to stop being Kyler Murray haters. I do think he's a hell of a quarterback, but when receivers can't get open, you're without your main guy, D-Hop, and the offensive line is hit and miss, Didn't he have that play a few weeks ago? It was like 27 seconds long or something like that. Just insane, So sometimes he's got time to throw back there, and credit his patience. But, and I think that's a problem with quarterbacks that can scramble and that have wheels. It's really frustrating because coaches always want you to hang around in the pocket. And I get it. The criticism comes from fans. Oh, they're, just a glorified running back. Elway got it. Steve Young got it. Cunningham got it. McNabb got it. Mike Vick got it. Who cares? All right. Be who you are as a quarterback. And if the play's not there, just let your instincts kick in. I do love watching Kyler Murray play. And I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. And he showed to be a leader just as much as anybody else when he did that. So to me, I don't have an issue with it. And if you do, I would love to hear why. Because what was happening before that? How are you losing to the Saints? Are they any good? No Jameis Winston, even with them, how good have they been? I mean, come on, we're talking about the same Jameis Winston that threw 35 TDs and 35 interceptions in the same season. The Buccaneers could not make the playoffs. Brady comes in, basically the same team. They go to a Super Bowl, they dominate that game, and now they have another ring. The franchise does, I should say. All right, moving on. College football preview for the weekend. Obviously, we've already talked about Syracuse and Clemson. I touched on TCU and Kansas State. Texas and Oklahoma State. I do like Texas to win this football game. I just don't believe that Oklahoma State has enough defense in the big game situations to get the job done. And, let's not forget, still a very young player. A lot of people have talked about the difference the offense has when he's playing. I agree. And even though they could not get by Texas Tech, Texas Tech is a team that Oklahoma State also struggled with. So you start going down and looking at common opponents and difficult opponents. Let's not forget that Texas had Alabama on the ropes in a game that they could have won, even with the backup quarterback in that had lost his job to Eward. So, yes, I do like Texas to win that football game. I think they are an overall better team, and they have a better defense than some of the other teams that they faced. Even though they put up a lot of points against TCU, who I still believe has the overall best defense in the Big 12, I think Texas just has too much balance offensively and defensively, and they win the football game. That game's going to be in Stillwater, by the way, but I just don't think the home field advantage is going to be enough. I think they're reeling coming into that game, and it just doesn't look like they are prepared for some of the big game situations this year. Again, Oklahoma State out of conference schedule, pretty weak, and Central Michigan, I think, is a game that every year we see Oklahoma State play in. They just fail to put away that team a lot of times. It's almost like you might want to stop scheduling those guys. But regardless, I thought that game was very telling right out of the gate of who this football team is. They got off to a huge lead, but they could not protect it. And ultimately, while I think Oklahoma State still has a pretty prolific offense, in the Big 12, we're not talking about the difficulty in being able to score points per the usual. So there's that. All right, Alabama and Mississippi State, obviously, there's, been some tragedy in Mississippi State. Samuel Westmoreland was just an 18-year-old freshman offensive lineman that passed away on October the 19th. And it was only 2 days before his 19th birthday. So his 19th birthday now would have passed as somebody lost his 18-year-old brother in a tragic work accident. I definitely empathize and sympathize simultaneously with his family. There's nothing easy about it, especially when it's publicized. And then, of course, there's a bigger effect here because it doesn't just impact now the lives that are in his family, but now the lives of a second family that is the Mississippi State football team. And it's going to be tough for this team to come out and play a game of football when clearly you have bigger things going on. But one thing that we have seen, though, is that these types of situations, your second family tends to rally around you. And I've already said that Alabama is not that good once you get past the defensive line. I think the defensive line still is the best in all of college football. But I said going into last weekend against Tennessee, if you can make it past that, which they did, then you're going to be able to score. And I just like Mississippi State to win this game. I think they rally around each other. I think they lift each other up in this tragedy, and they get it done. So when I say I understand, believe me when I tell you, I understand on a different level than most. And I don't think so much this Saturday is going to be about playing a game of college football as it is about playing for the memory of the fallen comrade. And that's okay. If I would say anything, it doesn't feel like it now, but it will be okay. And while it's not very sentimental, something you'll have to realize is the pain never really goes away. It just gets easier to deal with. God, I miss you, Aaron. So I like Mississippi State to win that football game. They rally around their guy. Alabama has had some very questionable games, and I've talked about it all year long, right? Not exactly the biggest win over Arkansas to me. They struggled really hard with Texas A&M. They struggled really hard with Texas, and, you know, as close as that game was against Tennessee, I'm not saying Alabama, again, for the upteenth time is dead or Nick Saban's not that good of a coach anymore, yada, yada, yada. I'm saying he has been outcoached in a lot of these games, all right? I was saying it before Feinbaum. Sometimes I wonder if these guys are listening to me. And I just think that Mississippi State proves to be too much, even though that game is in Tuscaloosa. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I do like Mississippi State to win that football game. And then, of course, there's another game that I really thought could still be interesting, and that is Ohio State and Iowa. Now, hear me out. I know that Ohio State really hasn't played anybody that good, especially offensively. Believe it or not, though, they have played against some good defenses. If I'm not mistaken, Rutgers' defense is ranked top 10 in the country. Now, there again, Rutgers, I mean, who all has Rutgers played, right? This is, you know, these are the things that you have to look at, okay? Who has Rutgers played? That's the main thing, right? Boston College, Wagner, a common opponent with Syracuse, my favorite team. So I get it. But I do think, though, that they could be right for an upset Ohio State this weekend. Sometimes the game gets too easy, and you're facing another semi-good defense in Iowa, and maybe you get caught slipping. Again, looking at it as a whole, it doesn't look like that Ohio State plays anybody until they get to Penn State. But even then, I've talked about Penn State being vastly overrated. I said it going into the Michigan game. So again, it does look like for the time being that it probably will be the big game. But you never know until you know. And I think Ohio State could be right for an upset. I just love Iowa's defense still. I really do. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get to it. As far as the NFL goes, nice little sneak peek and prediction going into this weekend. Again, a lot of teams right now in the NFL are at 500. Obviously, with the Dallas Cowboys still above a 500, facing the Lions, we know how the Lions are. But it does look like Dak is going to be back in the lineup. Again, to me, he's only about a step and a half above what you were getting with your backup in Cooper Rush. But he is a $100 million quarterback. You're not going to bench him. And like I said, it would have taken a miracle for Cooper Rush to do something absolutely just insanely incredible is what I meant by that. Long before Skip or anybody else said it going into the Eagles game. It didn't happen. Not only did they lose, but they were getting destroyed for the better part of that football game. So we'll see what happens with Dak and how he looks coming back. Titans and Colts jockeying for position. Obviously, they're going to be playing each other. The Colts been on a bit of a run. And Matt Ryan, I think, has been a little bit underrated with this football team. The Titans just don't necessarily look like the Titans, right? It's weird, man. They just can't seem to put it together all the way. I think that they should have a better record now. They faced some pretty good teams so far in the NFL this year. But I really like the Colts to win this game. I think Matt Ryan is coming on late. I think he's getting better every single week with this football team. And I think that he's better with the Colts than people are giving him credit for. And I think Indianapolis right now is sneaky good, if I'm being honest with you. So that game's going to be on, taking shape. Denver and the Jets. Look, I'm not going to talk about Russell Wilson anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm sure you're sick of it. I've already discussed how I feel about that offense ad nauseum, that while Russ should share his blame, there's just been so many other things going on. The Jets, can't believe it. You go down, you look at all the East Coast teams, they're all doing pretty good this year. Even though that game is in Denver and the Broncos have the type of defense that they do, I do like the Jets to win that football game and basically essentially knock out the Broncos for good. If Denver finds some way to win that football game, which I doubt they will, then they're still potentially in the playoff hunt. Even at 3-4, they have a chance. But at 2-5, forget about it. Not going to happen. Jets win, knock Denver out of the playoff situation, and it's a done deal in Denver. Seattle and the Chargers. This game is interesting to me just because so many people have been talking about Geno Smith and how good he's playing and how good the Seahawks are. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the Seahawks are a 500 football team. What the hell is everybody watching? That one game on Monday night? Justin Herbert and company at home have had two really difficult losses. And you look at the Chargers and you wonder, and at least I do, could they be a 6-0 football team right now had Herbert not injured his ribs against the Chiefs? Because I don't think the Jaguars are that good. And then going into the next week, even though they got blown out in that game, at the bare minimum, I think this could be a 5-1 football team. And I would really love for the Chargers to win this game so that way we can stop with the Seattle talk for no good reason. And because I think that the Chargers, obviously with the win here, put themselves in a better situation going into the playoffs. Now, I get it, two different conferences. But that win continues to boost your confidence as well. You move into 5-2 and you show people that we are here and we're for real. All right. We've had a couple of hiccups. Herbert getting better is what he says every week, playing through that rib injury. He's being a man. That's for damn sure. And I like LA to win that game. Chiefs, Niners, Frisco, probably one of the better defenses that Kansas City is going to see this year, but they've got a lot of injuries. I'm not really sure McCaffrey is going to step in this Sunday and make a difference. Being that the trade happened during the middle of the Thursday night football game, I don't even know that we'll see him play. I mean, how are you going to plug him in, right? So Chiefs, I think, win that football game. Close, but I think they end up getting the job done. And then, of course, Sunday night, you're going to see the Dolphins and Steelers, a game that I don't think a lot of people are going to be interested in. But the Dolphins, obviously, we'll see what happens with Tua. He's been taking reps. Still no word on whether or not he's going to play. And I got to tell you, even if he does, I'm just not sure how good he's going to be. Coming back from a hit like that can not only alter how you play the game of football, but your recovery time, and without Tua, I don't think they get the job done. And so I'm going to take Pittsburgh in what to me at this point will not be an upset. Despite all the speed with the receiving core that we all know about, with the Dolphins. I just think that Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, they probably come in, they play disciplined football, and they do just enough to win that football game. Not that I think that the Steelers are going to do anything special this year, but I do think that they win that football game. All right, everybody. Quick recap. I don't take issue with Kyler Murray. They won the football game. They were losing before. They end up winning the game. What more do you want? You know? McCaffrey to the Niners. If he stays healthy, I think it's a winning combination. Do I think it helps them this season? No. Going forward, they want to keep him, maybe. Then, of course, college football. I do like Mississippi State. Again, to the family, just come together. Come together. I like Mississippi State to beat Alabama. I really do. I like Texas to beat Oklahoma State. I want to reiterate that I do like Kansas State to beat TCU. I also want to reiterate that even though I didn't talk about it, it's in some of my other podcasts if you want to go and look at it, that I do think Clemson beats Syracuse, even though Syracuse was a championship caliber defense. I just think that Clemson has a better quarterback in DJ. So there's going to be some other games to look forward to. Ohio State could be right for an upset. We'll see. But in the meantime, in the eyes of many, again, they're looking forward to the Penn State game. Then, of course, the big game against Michigan. Don't forget the CFP rankings, I believe, are going to be coming out after this weekend. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now with all these teams. It's going to be huge. Can everybody keep their heads on a swivel? So that's going to be a big thing. Again, going into the NFL, there's only really a handful of games that look that good, but I do think Matt Ryan a little underrated with the Indianapolis Colts, and I like them to win that game and really begin to assert themselves in that division. I think they take down Tennessee, and that's pretty much the bottom line to that. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. This is the Sync 57 Sports Show. We are wherever you are listening for podcasts, whether you want to check us out on YouTube. We're also on Google Podcasts, iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, etc. We're just about everywhere you are listening. And as always, stay safe and take care of yourselves.